Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Just a quick reminder that in the Bible, in Mark chapter 16, verse 20, that's where we read that God sends coincidence miracles, uses different terminology, signs and wonders, but we get signs and wonders or coincidence miracles. We get clues that we're doing God's will when we are. That's something that God does for his troops in his army. He lets his soldiers know that they are pleasing him. So I thought I'd remind us all of that before we get started. Okay, our first story today has a case where I was inspired for about 2 or 3 days to post on Facebook and LinkedIn some kind of a message about how families should be a nurturing place where each member in the family is loving each other and as a group loving each individual, nurturing a lot of growth and familiarity with the process of truly, really loving each other the way God intended us to love each other. So after about 2 or 3 days, I finally got inspired to do it and get it done, and I did post it on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then right after that, I went to read the daily readings, which the church has established so that all of the churches, several Christian denominations, different Christians like Catholics, Episcopalians, Lutherans, they all are using the same readings on weekends anyway, and I think during the week as well. So I went to read the daily readings for that day, and sure enough, the daily readings were Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24, which basically says, "Let us consider how we may spur each other onward to love and good deeds and good news." Our next coincidence miracle is about a relative we have who's living in New Zealand, and they just got a wonderful promotion, a new position. They're a scientist, and in order to get the perfect positions for them as a scientist in their genre, in their specialty, that's not an easy process, and so they did find a perfect match for them, and they're all excited about it. I intended to write to them a congratulatory note for about 3 or 4 days, but I had other things coming up and I never really got to it. So finally this one day I was praying for inspiration about what to do. I got inspired to send a note out this morning, so I typed up a message, an email, and I was sending out a congratulatory note. And I sent it, and as soon as I sent it, I got a response immediately, and the person was telling me that they were just now sending me a message precisely at the same time to thank me for their Christmas gift. And so that's another case of I had like 3 days or so where I was thinking about doing it. But only when I got inspired by God to actually do it did I get this confirmation miracle of the other person was writing to me at exactly the same time. I had something similar happen right after that on that same morning. I had some things I wanted to follow up with my insurance company, and I had a list to call them about. Again, that was sitting there for about a week. So I grabbed it right after this experience with New Zealand, and I picked up the phone to dial, and just before I got the phone off the hook to start dialing, the phone rang, and it was my insurance company calling me, so I covered the same topic with them. So as you can imagine, both things I just talked about, the New Zealand promotion and the Christmas gift confirmation, and my insurance company calling me as I was about to call them, both of them happening like within the same 10 or 15 minute time frame certainly gets our attention and convinces us that we're getting coincidence miracles from God because we ask Him what to do, and because we ask Him what to do and then we go to do it, then get the coincidence miracle. That's the proof. See, the coincidence miracle proves that we did ask Him and He did answer us because it's Him, it's God who sends us the coincidence miracle. He sends us the confirmation. So that means He sent us the idea to do the thing in the first place. I know you're accustomed to hearing this kind of a miracle, but once again, I was inspired to take my lunch break and to drive over to a park and talk with God, walk around the park and talk with God. So I got inspired what time to do it and when to do it, and I left when I was inspired to go. And sure enough, I pull out onto the road, and the first car I see coming toward me is license plate 777, and the one right behind him, back to back, was another license plate 777. And as you know by now, this happens to me very often, but two cars coming toward me as I pull out onto the road, out of the driveway, both of them 777, and that's the number for God. 3 sevens is the number that history has assigned to God, just like we've assigned 3 sixes to the devil. So I hope you appreciate the fact. And if you've heard these stories of mine before where I'm led to do something and then see the 3 sevens, you know that it's very precious to me anyway. It's a great confirmation, another coincidence miracle. And even though it's repetitive and I share it with you often, I can't resist telling you, if every time I do something, a red bird lands on my shoulder and makes a tweeting sound, if every time I do something I think God wants me to do, if that's what happens, then I would never stop telling you that the bird landed on my shoulder again. So if he lands on my shoulder 100 times a day, I'll be telling you 100 times a day he lands on my shoulder, because that's what it's so marvelous, okay? So as many times as I see 3 sevens, it's never out of date for me, and it's never boring to me. It's always another case of God showing me 3 sevens in a way that He's showing me that He loves me. In our next coincidence miracle, I was inspired for about a week to post on Facebook and LinkedIn a message that nobody, actually no one on the planet, is self-sufficient. We use the word self-sufficient, but even when you look like you are or you meet people and you think they are, the fact of the matter is, without God's influence, without His inspirations into our minds, the ideas that He sends us, even the wisest, most brilliant people who have great wisdom, the Bible explains all wisdom comes from God. So, you see, we're not self-sufficient, because if we have wisdom and if we have capabilities and we're doing all the right things, it's because God is giving that to us. That's why we are as wise as we are. We don't start out very wise at birth. It takes us a while as we're growing up, and we might look precocious as we, begin to age. Maybe 8 years old, we start noticing a genius at the age of 8, perhaps. But the wisdom comes from God, so we're not self-sufficient. And so this means that we need to behave this way. We need to know that the wisdom we're going to have is going to come to us by asking God what to do. So I was inspired to post it on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I did. I finally got it done. And then I had like 5 confirmations after that by a phone call I got from somebody or something that was in the mail. And most importantly, I was watching the EWTN daily mass with my supper that night. And as I was sitting there eating supper, I put the TV on and watched my DVR, the homily by Father Mitch Pacwa. He's a Jesuit, a brilliant man, and he explained very carefully, very thoroughly, that we are not self-sufficient. In John 15, Jesus says to us, "Without me, you can do nothing." Let me say that again. Jesus says, without him, we can do nothing, which indicates and which implies that he's constantly giving us inspiration, ideas, and wisdom, and that's how come we wind up doing some wise things sometime. Our next coincidence miracle has to do with something I was pondering for maybe 3 or 4 days. I kept getting inspired by God and got ideas about it. And I kept reflecting on, 53 years of evangelizing and teaching Sunday school and doing a lot of other things like lectures, etc., and also having a career in business as well and being a business consultant, business coach, thinking about my life and the things I have done. And I was starting to notice that I had gotten a lot of inspirations from God over many, many years, and I began to pick up and have a passion. Most artists have a passion, right? They're blank canvas, and they get the passion suddenly to paint something, or a musician get the same thing with a blank page of music. And likewise, in my case, I had this passion brewing, and I never really sat down and defined it. I never sat down and wrote it down in black and white, what's my mission all about. So I was pondering it over a 3-day period and getting a lot of help from God, and what is my goal and the kinds of things that I try to do. And that day when I went to check the daily readings that day were 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 15 to 23. Once again, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 15 to 23, and it talks about, the mission being to evangelize, to tell the world about God, to have them experience the joy, the happiness of becoming a friend of God. And that's because people who become a friend of God and start to notice how wonderful God is, they can't resist helping other people find him. So when you meet someone who does not know God, but you know him, you are empowered, and you're thrusted into the activity of helping them. So sometimes when people are evangelizing you, it's because they're trying to help you to at least become God's friend. And I found that that's my role also. I know I experience miracles every day, and I want other people to enjoy that process. I've seen many businesses save a lot of money and succeed. I've helped some businesses who were going bankrupt get out of bankruptcy, all because we asked God what to do, and we did what God told us to do. All right, so you heard a few cases today of me being inspired to do things over a 2-3 day period, and when I was following those inspirations, doing what God was putting into my mind, and he was sending us ideas. God does that for everybody. If you ask him, when you get out of bed in the morning, the first thing you say is, please keep giving me inspirations and ideas all day long. Please keep giving me inspirations and ideas all day long. God will do that. And that's where you'll get your wisdom from. And the ideas you get, if you think about them and reflect on them, they kind of grow. They're like little seeds that grow into an oak tree within you, paying attention to the inspirations that God sends you throughout the day. Okay, so I encourage everybody to keep asking God what to do and do what you believe he's saying, and you'll experience miracles every day, all day long. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.